What's going on, guys? I hope you're all doing well. Now, it's been about 5 months since I've done a video games pickups video. Now, the thing is, I buy a lot of things, not just video games. However, video games are like 95% of what I buy, but there are other things that I buy. I buy trading cards, and I buy a lot of other cool collectibles and just other physical media in general. So I decided that I'd like to expand these video game pickup videos into just being pickup videos in general. Now, the thing is, there's not actually going to be any trading cards in this video because I can't exactly remember what I purchased since the last one. I mean, I could at least grab my binder and maybe flip through it with you guys for a bit if you'd be interested in at least seeing my collection. So if we have time towards the end of the video, I'll kind of do that just so then I kind of have a reference to look back on before I make another pickups video, so then I can actually show you guys what trading cards I've been buying. And if you guys are curious as to like what trading cards I buy literally like, I mean, there's really no limit to what I'd look to collect. I just like trading cards in general, and I'm not necessarily concerned about value. I just think that trading cards in general are cool. So I buy Dragon Ball trading cards, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, just literally anything. All that being said, we're gonna get straight into it, and I don't want anybody to feel clickbaited or have to like skip around in the video to be like, all right, where is this Halo energy sword that he was talking about? Okay, you know, if that's all you want to see, then well, then here it is. Here is the Halo energy sword. So basically, the story behind how I got this is, and a couple of the other items we'll be going over, is I went to a garage sale the other day, and it wasn't even necessarily a thing of where I saw the garage sale beforehand and I was planning to go there. No, this was like totally on the whim, you know, because I just got a new BMX like a couple months ago because one of my neighbors was kind enough to just give it to me. They were like, hey, a buddy of mine is giving me 3 bikes and me and my wife don't need, you know, the third bike, which is like a BMX. Do you want it? And I was like, heck yeah, I want it, because, you know, ever since I moved to Florida, I haven't had a bike because I was just one of those things that I ended up having to leave behind just because I didn't have enough room to bring it, which really sucks because the bike was really nice. It almost looked like a Harley Davidson, except obviously it was like a Harley Davidson looking bicycle, except, you know, it had like pedals and everything. Obviously it wasn't like, you know, powered by an engine or anything like that. But, yeah, you know, and then I did end up getting a bike, like, shortly after I moved, but it was one of those weird mountain bikes with, like, gears and all that, and, like, dog, if I'm gonna ride a bike, I just want it to ride, you know what I mean? I don't want to worry about, like, shifting gears and all that. I just want, like, a 1-speed bike. It goes as fast as I pedal it, so I got a Mongoose Rebel BMX-looking bike. I was actually thinking of maybe one day doing vlogs with that thing, kind of like, you know, buying a GoPro, just kind of take you out, so maybe eventually you guys will see that bike. Actually, screw it, I'll just throw up a picture on screen. There you go. That's what the bike looks like. But anyway, it was finally cool enough outside, and it was one of those afternoons where I wasn't necessarily in the middle of, you know, like binging any single player games, because if I'm playing a single player game, I will not do literally anything else in my life, you know, outside of making videos, because videos is like a daily thing, that's a given. But that day, it was just one of those things where I was waiting for a Call of Duty event to go live, so I was like, alright, there's still a couple hours till that goes live. You know what? I haven't gotten to ride that bike yet. Why don't I just take it for a spin through the neighborhood real quick? So, you know, I was just planning to go out for like 10-15 minutes tops, just kind of, you know, give it a ride, see how it goes. And, yeah, the bike is really nice, but on my way back, I was adventuring through a part of the neighborhood that I'd never really been to before, and I saw somebody had a garage sale. So I was like, you know what? Let's see if there's any video games or anything else cool like that. So I went over and I ended up picking up 2 of the games, which I will show you guys in a bit, but they were also like, hey, we'll have more stuff out tomorrow, so if you live close by, you might want to check back in then. And I was like, heck yeah, I'll check back in then. So I bought like $10 worth of things then, just to, you know, just kind of throw some money their way. They had some stuff I was interested in, but I didn't want to go too crazy with my spending just in case they had some really cool stuff out the next day. And of course they did. The next day they had this Halo energy sword out. Now, I thought this thing was about to cost me a fortune because I saw it sitting there, and you know, the woman, or there was 2 women there the first day, and then the second day there was 3 women sitting there. Sorry, dude, it is still early in the morning. My brain is all over the place. The first day there was 2 women out there selling stuff. The second day there was 3 women out there, and the one woman was basically selling off some of her son's old like blade and knives collections and stuff like that because he had recently moved out, and any of the stuff that he didn't want, he had essentially just left behind and told his mom, hey, you can sell this stuff, it's whatever. So this was one of the things, and I had to ask her. I was like, hey, ma'am, do you know anything about these blades if I would have a specific question about them? She was like, depending on the blade, yeah. I pointed to this one. I was like, ma'am, is that a replica of the energy sword from Halo? And she was like, yes, it is. So I was looking at it, I was like, hey, because, you know, they had all the stuff labeled with, like, sticker prices and stuff, but this was the one thing they didn't have labeled, so I was like, is there, like, an exact price you're looking for this? And she just kind of looked at it, she's like, yeah, maybe about $15. And I was like, all right, you know, I was like, I was looking at it, I was like, for 15, I was just thinking in my head, you know, I was just thinking, I was like, you know what, that is a pretty good price. And then, but immediately, I didn't even have to say anything. She was like, but, you know, since you're buying other stuff and you're already here, you know, like, I could do 10. So I was like, immediately, I was like, deal. So I picked that up along with some other things on the second day, which we'll be getting to then. And, yeah, that's the story about how I acquired the Halo Energy Sword. Now, it is worth noting that these things are really sharp. I already stabbed myself with it, like, multiple times, so, you know, that's fun, but this is definitely one of those things where I'm gonna buy some hooks and, like, hang it up somewhere at some point. I also want to get, like, a Master Chief helmet, just so I can kind of, like, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it, dog. I would love to cosplay as, like, Master Chief with, like, the Energy Sword. Canonically speaking, is the Energy Sword Master Chief's main weapon? No, of course not. You know, you'd realistically just be holding, like, an assault rifle or, like, a Magnum for that. But, I mean, like, dog, if you've played Halo multiplayer, you've seen more than enough Master Chief models running around shanking each other with these things. Anyway, long-winded tangent aside, I'm really good at those things, aren't I? I ended up finally buying my first Funko Pop. I can't believe I said that out loud. Okay, so technically, it's not actually my first. My first one is technically up over there on my shelf. It's like one of those mini Funkos. It's like the Spider-Man 2099 from the most recent Spider-Verse movie. So, you know, I technically had a Funko Pop before this, but this is my first official, like, full-size one that it wasn't just like a $5 mini, okay? This is one of those things where it is from that garage sale. I saw it there. I was like, all right, look, I think I'm going to bite the bullet and buy my first Funko Pop. And this one was too adorable not to buy. It's not even video game related. And I'll just show it to you. Look, it's a White Castle slider. Look how cute it is. It has the little tongue and the eye. Like, it is so cute. And it has the little wrapper on its head. And it's just one of those things where, if you guys know me, I don't do fast food. I haven't eaten out in like 4 years at this point. But, you know, it's just one of those things where when I see cute food, like, for example, in Black Ops Cold War, one of the main charms that I use on my weapons is this little, like, smiling taco face, just because I feel like, for some reason, when there's food and it looks like a little emoji and it has, like, cute faces on it, it's just, it's too much. I get suckered in by that cute stuff. And look, it even has like little shoes and everything like that. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy it. It's my first Funko. I've had it sitting on my shelf. So anytime that I record Call of Duty videos where I'm over on my console setup, you guys will see it on the shelf in the background. Just this little White Castle thing sitting there. And now that I bought one, yes, I do plan to buy more. It's one of those things where I've been holding off for a while. But now that I bought my first one, I don't even know what there's Funkos of out there, but I'm gonna start looking. If there's anything related to gaming stuff, which I know there is, I'm gonna be all over it. Star Wars, anime, Dragon Ball, all that. So yeah, the Funko Pop grotesque rabbit hole has begun. Now, the next thing that I purchased, don't worry, we'll be getting to the video games here soon, but as a kid, I was one of those Matchbox Cars kids where I had this massive pink bin, right? And I'm talking massive. Like, this thing was almost as big as me. And I had hundreds. Like, maybe almost 1,000 Matchbox cars, but unfortunately over the years, they've been handed down to siblings, and they've just been lost with moves and yard sales and all that, but I decided it was time for me to start buying Hot Wheels again. So I was at Publix, which is a grocery store for those of you that don't live in the South of the US, and I saw they had a 3 for 4 sale going because, you know, Hot Wheels are always cheap in general. So I bought 3 of them. There was one in particular that I was looking for, and I was there with my brother because that was when he was still visiting. Unfortunately, he's gone back home. I miss him already, but we were looking at Publix, and I was like, if I ever see this one Hot Wheels, I will buy it, and I will start collecting Hot Wheels again. What do you know? We sat there just kind of searching and shuffling through the Hot Wheels, and we actually ended up finding it. And the only reason that I knew that this Hot Wheels car existed was because there was a game called Hot Wheels Unleashed. You know, I played it a couple years ago when it launched, and then recently I just started playing it again on my PS5, because I was like, hey, I already ran through the game on Xbox. They gave it away with PS Plus a while ago. Let me just start up a fresh save and play it again. And I ended up getting the Batmobile in game, and that was the one Hot Wheels where I was like, alright, if I ever see it, I'll start collecting Hot Wheels again. And what do you know, my brother was searching, he was like, hey, isn't this the one you were looking for? And yeah, it's the Batmobile, that's what I was looking for. But I also ended up picking this Mega Block Hot Wheels. It's one of those things where I love Lego, and even though this isn't necessarily Lego, it kind of looks like one because it has like the little things on the side. I know it's hard to see with the lighting, so there's that. And then I also got the T-Rex Destroyer, just because that one was so cool. So for now, I'm leaving them in the packaging. You know, I'm not one of those collectors where I always leave everything sealed. Like, you know, if I buy something, I have the intention to use it. The only exception to that would be Funko Pop, just because Funko is like, it's so much easier to display it inside of the box, and I feel like the box is kind of part of the display. You have the number there and the logos and the cool things like that. So, and then you even have like cool stuff like this on the back. So it's one of those things where like Funko, it's easier to display if it's inside of the box, and to a certain extent, for some reason, it almost looks better inside of the box. So anytime that I buy something, I don't collect for value. I collect, like, financial value. I collect for sentimental value. I don't care about the value of things monetarily. I buy things because I want to own them until the day I die. So this isn't one of those things where I'm going to keep them inside of the box. So there's a part of me that kind of wants to just kind of like hanging them up and get rows and rows of like boxed Hot Wheels. But I do want to buy like an actual set or like garage for like Hot Wheels, you know what I mean? Like one of those Hot Wheels garage sets, and also just like a straight up track in general, you know, one of those massive like $100 to $200 sets where it's like a whole race track and you like set them up and have them go and stuff. So I do want to do that eventually. So I'm kind of debating if I want to get a shelf where I kind of line up all of my unboxed Hot Wheels and have them all kind of sitting there, or if I want to leave them in the box just because there is a bit of personality there, similar to Funko, where I could set them all up. Still not decided, but yeah, I started collecting Hot Wheels again for the first time in almost 2 decades. Now we can go ahead and move over to some video games. Now, as I noted before, I have not made a video games pickup video since March 2024, so this isn't everything that I've purchased since March, because honestly, even going back to that video, I was trying to figure out like what I had and hadn't purchased since then. But if I'm gonna be honest, I've purchased a lot of video games. I'm always just buying video games. So instead, what I decided to do is just narrow it down to everything that I purchased within like the last month. Maybe some of these were purchased within the last 2 months, but for the most part, this is just everything that I purchased in the last month, just to make things simple, because I purchased a lot of things since March, like a whole bookshelf's worth since March. Anyway, the first thing that I picked up, now, a lot of these games actually, no, I have played, this is one of those situations where I have played every single game in this stack before. It was just a situation where I was like, hey, I'm either repurchasing the game because I lost it at some point for some reason, or I'm just playing it again because I wanted to, but on a different platform or one reason or another. So first things first, we have Medal of Honor, the 2010 reboot here on PS3. This was a game that I played on 360 back in the day, but I saw it in my local store for $4, so I was like, hey, I'll pick it up. And furthermore, that's pretty cool because this is the limited edition, which also comes with Medal of Honor Frontline on the disc, which is pretty cool because sometimes with some of these games from the PS3 and 360 generation, and even after that, like the Xbox One, PS4, and Switch generation and stuff like that, you see a lot of games where they say they include another game. Like the God of War Saga is one example I can think of, where you have 1, 2, and 3 on disc, but then the Origins collection or the PSP games only are a download code there on PS3, but thankfully this is one of those where everything is actually included on the disc, which is really nice, because obviously those codes can expire over time or they can be redeemed, which then essentially makes that part of the package useless unless it's on the disc like this is. So that was really nice. Medal of Honor is a Medal of Honor Frontline. It's a classic Medal of Honor game. I absolutely love that one. A lot of nostalgia for that title. So I haven't ran through that version on the PS3 specifically yet, just because I do still have like my original Xbox copy, but you know, I'll probably run through that at some point just to see if there are any real differences. I'm not expecting there to be, but you know, in graphics or, you know, performance or anything like that. Not that I really care about that stuff anyway. I'm the type of guy where even if a remastered version of a game comes out, I always just go back and play the original. Now, remakes are a completely different thing. Like Resident Evil 4, for example, I still play the original RE4, but then I also, you know, play the remake just because they're 2 entirely different games. But when it comes to remasters, I'm weird. I don't care if the new remaster's at like 4K 60 FPS. I'd rather go back and play the 720p 30 FPS PS3 version of the remaster, you know what I mean? Just because I feel like that's the way the game was intended to be played and experienced. And in some cases that's true, just because sometimes those FPS boosts can mess up the game in some unexpected ways. But conversation for a whole other different day. And again, it's just one of those things where I just like having that original intended experience. And you know, sometimes, you know, I completely support remasters. I think they're cool, but again, I'm weird like that. I like playing it on the original platforms they were released for, if possible. Next up, I picked up Gears of War 2. Obviously, I've played all the Gears games way back in the day during the 360 generation when it was in its prime. It's just one of those situations where I had it digitally, so now I finally picked it up physically. Next up, we have Battlefield 2, and this has always been a, just, you know, one of those titles in the Battlefield series where it's just kind of interesting, right? Because this came out in 2005, which was like right on the cusp of the Xbox 360 coming out, so we had this come out on the original Xbox and the PS2, But then shortly after, we had like a remastered or remade version on the Xbox 360 with slightly different graphics and effects and such. But it's just one of those things where, again, as I was saying before, if a game comes out for a system, I just like playing the original one that it was intended for. And as cool as the Xbox 360 one is, this one still just has so much of that original Xbox and PS2 era charm to where it's like, if I'm going to replay the game, I don't know, I feel like the game is at home here, whereas the 360 version is just more or less a remake or remaster. Not that that necessarily invalidates the 360 version's existence or just that game in general, it's just, again, I just want to play the original system the game was made for. Next up, we got Test Drive. If you guys have never played Test Drive before, you absolutely, you have to play this game at some point, alright? This is obviously, you know, like from the PS2 generation, and this game is great. And look at that, published by Atari. This was a game that I played back in the day, but I guess I just lost it over time, whether that be through moves or one thing or another. Oh, unfortunately, it looks like the manual is kind of like poking out of the bottom there. Let me go ahead and fix that. But basically, just to sum this game up, it's got a kill. It's as 2000s as you can get with the street racing and the soundtrack and just like, I really don't want to say too much about it. Like, seriously, if you haven't played this game before, please do yourself a favor, whether you acquire it through normal means, which is pretty easy to do because it is pretty cheap, or, you know, through other means. I'm not gonna judge you. All I'll say is that right on the cover, it literally says features music by DMX, Ja Rule, Junkie XL, Bubba Sparks, and Saliva. So if that doesn't tell you just how 2000s this game is, then I don't know what will. Please play this game if you haven't. I can never get enough of those like street racing type games. Fast and the Furious are some of my favorite movies of all time, specifically like the first Fast and Furious. You know, I also like Fast and Furious 2, and Tokyo Drift was pretty rad as well, but there's something about that first Fast and Furious movie to me where it's just like, I don't know, man, that's just like, that one's just, you know what I mean, just right in the feels. I don't know if it's nostalgia or one thing or another, but I love that one specifically. I can watch that movie time and time again. I just love that type of like street racing, the music, the aesthetic, everything. Next up, we got The Hobbit. This is a very, not just underrated game from this generation, but also just rather unknown. Anytime that I talk to people about this game, they're like, what are you even talking about? And I'm like, what? Because I played this one back in the day, and I had so much fun with this game. And yet, you know, years later, I look things up on YouTube, and like, sure, there's some playthroughs and here and there. I haven't even seen really any reviews or retrospectives for this game, but it's just like barely anybody ever seems to talk about it, you know? I don't know if it's just a nostalgia thing where since I grew up with it, I look at it fondly and I have a lot of fun with it, but I mean, I don't understand. It's a Hobbit game. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, that's like a well-known IP, but it's just like, did y'all know this game existed? I ended up picking it up for like $3 at some like retro store I was at. I was like, I mean, sure, why not? It has a really cool art style. There's some pretty good puzzles. The action's great. You know, it's fun exploring the levels and stuff. It's just, I don't know, it's really charming. If you ever get the chance, definitely check this one out, especially if you're a fan of like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or anything like that. Next up, we got the SOCOM games for PS2, SOCOM 1 and 2. This is just one of those things where, you know, you guys have heard me talk about SOCOM time and time again. It's just one of those things where over the years, unfortunately, I have lost my copies. So, you know, anytime that I've, you know, been playing these games in recent years, it's had to be through other means just to get my nostalgia fix for these games. But thankfully, I was at my local retro game store, and they had them there for like $3 a piece, so I went ahead and picked them up just because, I mean, again, these are some of my favorite, you know, like Sony IPs, and it's just so sad that Sony hasn't done anything with them in years at this point since the PS3 generation. I'm really hoping that we see a resurgence with SOCOM at some point. These games are just so unique with the way they played, you know, that like tactical, you know, like military sim approach is just, it's so unique. If you haven't played SOCOM, it's another one of the series that I can highly recommend. All the games were great, all the way from the original PS2 ones, all the way up through the PS3, and then you also had some other ones on Sony's handheld, like PSP and stuff like that. So yeah, SOCOM through and through is just an amazing franchise. Next up, we got Final Fantasy XII. This is a game that, you know, whose praises I've sung time and time again, just another situation where I lost my original copy. That happened, unfortunately, a lot back in the day. You know, once my parents got a divorce, I moved multiple times, and things were just a little messy there for a while, so a lot of games that I had back from that generation, I unfortunately either ended up getting sold or lost in one way or another. So this is just the one that I was repurchasing, because I mean, man, it's Final Fantasy XII, and this I feel like this Final Fantasy has finally started getting the recognition it deserves in recent years, because, you know, obviously everybody always talks about like 10, 7, you know what I mean? But rarely do I hear people talk about some of the other ones, like 8 or 12, for example, like some of those in-between ones. I've even heard some more people talking about 9 compared to like 8 or 12, but definitely check out 12 if you haven't, especially if you're a Final Fantasy fan. And, you know, if you don't know anything about Final Fantasy, and if you're wondering, like, can I really just start out on the 12th entry? Like, yeah, you can start with any Final Fantasy entry. They're all basically standalone. So if the title is like Roman numerals, like Final Fantasy 12, you can jump in there. But if it's a title like Final Fantasy 10-2, like Final Fantasy X-2, then the actual number resembles the fact that it is indeed a sequel to a specific entry in the series, which is always, you know, pretty obvious which one it's a sequel to if you look at it. Except for, like, Lightning Returns, it might be kind of hard at first to know that that's, you know, part of the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy until you look into it, but anyways, yeah, Final Fantasy 12 is an absolutely amazing Final Fantasy game. So whether you're a fan of Final Fantasy or not, I mean, I honestly feel like this is a great place to jump in. I feel like you can't go wrong with jumping in at any point in the Final Fantasy franchise, just because all of them are so different. Sure, the first 6 games are a bit more similar compared to the later entries, where each one does feel really unique or different in their own specific ways, like where 16 is more of like a, almost like a DMC style game, just because it's more of an action RPG compared to like something like Final Fantasy 7, which is more of a turn-based thing. So 1 through 6 are definitely a lot more similar if you would say pick up the Pixel Remaster, but otherwise anything after that, they're all very distinct. So it really just comes down to, you know, what specific gameplay style you're looking for at the moment, or just what kind of tone you're looking for at the moment, I guess. But anyways, yeah, Final Fantasy 12, great game. Next up, we got Deathloop, and oh man, there's a hair on it, and yeah, that is definitely my hair, because it's long and it's black. Anyway, Deathloop, this game is absolutely amazing, and surprisingly, this game is like dirt cheap now. I was looking online, and it's going for like 10 to 15, brand new and sealed, so if you haven't played this one, the less you know about it, the better, because this is one of those time loop games where you're gonna be playing the same segments a couple of times. It is, I'm trying to skirt around spoilers here. So the more you play it, obviously, the farther you'll get each time, the better you'll do each time, and the more efficient you will become in your playthroughs up until the end of the game. But man, Deathloop is so good. Now, this is a copy that I ended up picking up from GameStop, and I ended up picking it up for $10 used, because I saw it was, as I was like, you know, shopping at GameStop, I saw they had it on eBay for like 15 new. So originally I was gonna get it there, but then it was one of those situations where I was like, hey, I was already there to sign up for a pro membership, so I was like, all right, you know what, I'll just go ahead and pick it up. It's $10. That saves me $5. I can just put the $5 that I saved towards another game. And unfortunately, there is a couple nicks in the cover art, but or not in the cover art, in the case itself, the plastic, which means the case can be replaced. So you know, I can make this a more pristine copy down the line. Because otherwise, the cover art and the disc and everything like that is perfectly fine. But otherwise, yeah, Deathloop. The less you know about it, the better. Don't watch any reviews. Just take my word for it. This game is an absolute masterpiece. Please play it if you get the chance. Next up, this one I actually ended up purchasing almost 2 months ago now. That being GTA 5 is just one of those things where, yes, I'm buying it for the 3rd time, because I bought it when it released back on the PS3 and Xbox 360, and then I purchased it again when it came out on the Xbox One and the PS4 and PC, and now here I am. I got suckered into buying it again finally on PS5, because they had it on sale at Target finally for like $20, so I was like, you know what, usually when it comes to video games, you're not going to see it for less than 20 brand new, usually at retail. Sometimes you can get lucky, and if it's on clearance, you'll see games go down to like 10 or 15, but for the most part, they're going to be hovering around that 20 mark at the absolute lowest. So I went ahead and jumped on it. I was like, all right, I'll go ahead and get it. And I will say, playing it on PS5 is really nice. You know, you got the nice performance modes where it runs at a smooth, silky, you know, you can either have it at a higher resolution with ray tracing, like 4K ray tracing, have it run at 30 FPS, or you can just put it on performance ray tracing, where it's going to be running close to 60 FPS, more of like a 1440p resolution, I believe. And you will still have some frame drops anytime that big explosions are going on, or you can just do what I do, and I just have it on flat performance, no ray tracing, and it's a lock 60, even when there's a bunch of explosions. I've literally started like 60 car pileups, and it doesn't even drop a single frame. So that's usually how I play this game. If you guys know me though, I'm not a stickler for frame rates or resolutions. I literally could not care less. I could play a game at 30 or 60. I could play it at 480p or 4K, and I don't care either way. I'm happy to be playing a video game, period. I never understood the discourse between resolutions and frame rates. I just feel like it's rather silly and outright stupid, if I'm gonna be honest. But anyway, yeah, you know, if I have the option between the two, yes, I will choose 60 usually. But if there's not an option there, then it's like, I don't care. I mean, dog, I used to split screen 007 on the N64, and if you know anything about that, resolution or frame rate, well then, yeah, like, I don't care about that stuff. I just care about having fun. But anyways, yeah, I finally bit the bullet and picked up GTA 5 for, I would say, a 3rd time, because it's the 3rd re-release, but technically I already picked it up for each of the consoles before, so we're looking at like the 6th 7th whatever time that I'm purchasing the game now. Next up, this is one of the games that I picked up from the garage sale. I picked this up for $5. I did see it at my retro game store for only $4, but it was one of those things where I was already there. I was holding the game. I was like, it's $1 extra. I'll just pick it up there. But yeah, Medal of Honor Warfighter. This is a sequel to the Medal of Honor game that we looked at just a little bit ago. And yeah, another game where I played on the 360 back in the day. So I'll say, hey, I'll pick it up on PS3 because I don't have it there yet. And yeah, I always love these modern Medal of Honor games. It stinks that there was only like 2 Medal of Honor games after they did that soft reboot, but I mean, hey, I love Medal of Honor in general, and it would be pretty cool if that series can make a comeback, especially now that Battlefield is kind of going on a short hiatus per se while they start to develop the next one as Battlefield 2042 finishes up its content roadmap with the most recent season releasing. Yeah, it would be pretty cool to see another entry in the Medal of Honor series, and, you know, if they would go back to the roots and do, like, another World War II game, which is, like, you know, that's, like, classic Medal of Honor, prime nostalgia right there, I feel like that'd be pretty cool, or even if they take a stab at another more modern one, I feel like that'd be cool as well, but anyway, moving on to the next game, another game that I picked up from the garage sale is Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid Saga Continues. And this is a Game Mill published game, and I know some people sometimes give a bit of an eye roll when they see Game Mill there, but not every Game Mill game is actually bad. There is, you know, some actual genuinely quality titles there, and this is one that I enjoyed. You know, it's just a pretty simple brawler. You know, you're not gonna find like the most in-depth Elden Ring skill tree RPG mechanics here, but you know, it's just a pretty basic brawler where you got your combos, you got enemies to fight, you're going through like 28 different stages. You can choose to play as Miyagi or Cobra, and yeah, you know, the game is actually a lot of fun. Game Mill and Outright Games, those are the two where sometimes people kind of look at it with a bit of the crooked eyebrow before they buy one of those games, but seriously, like, Outright Games, they've made some great games, and same thing with Game Mill. Next up, and this is the final game that we'll be covering today before moving on to the final things that I picked up, this is Metal Gear Survive, another game where I bought it back in the day on the Xbox One, and I played it there, but I decided to go ahead and pick it up on PS4 just because I haven't played it there yet, and it's been a couple of years since I played the game. This is another game where everybody on the internet kind of falls into their little echo chamber hating on it for absolutely no reason, just because everybody on the internet likes to echo whatever the popular opinion is and have no opinion of their own, and most people just like to be toxic rather than be positive and just talk about things they love and would rather just spend their time being negative and pessimistic jerks. But anyway, Metal Gear Survive, I genuinely love this game. Do not listen to the quote-unquote popular opinions because, you know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm being a little toxic right now. Recently, I've made the move to stop using social media, and it's done nothing but improve my mental health, and I've genuinely been the happiest that I've ever been. I do still use social media to, like, you know, advertise my videos or keep in contact with, you know, you guys, my subscribers and viewers, but otherwise, I just stopped, you know, being online and, you know, even watching YouTube. Really, if I'm gonna be honest, I've just kind of disconnected from all internet things, and it's just crazy what it's like to feel like a normal human being again, where you're allowed to have your own opinion and just, I don't know, be disconnected from the constant echo chamber and BS. But anyway, Metal Gear Survive, yeah, it genuinely is a great game, and if you haven't played this game before, it's a nice mix of, like, crafting and survival and base defense, and it's really a fun game. Whether you play it by yourself or whether you play it with friends, I can highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. You can play it solo, or you can play it with upwards of 4 other players and do co-op and stuff, so yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I picked this one up for, like, I want to say like $10 or something like that, so yeah, worth every penny. Great game. And finally, at that garage sale, they had some movies sitting out. They had both DVDs and Blu-rays, but, you know, usually nowadays, if I see DVDs for cheap enough, I will pick them up, but usually I try to just buy Blu-rays just because, you know, they're higher quality, they're, you know, like full HD, whereas, you know, I don't, again, it's similar to what I was talking about before with video games, where it's like, I don't necessarily care about the resolutions and stuff, but if I do have the option presented to me, then I will usually go with the, you know, higher quality or higher resolution option, depending. Again, we were talking about the video game remasters. That's a little bit different. Again, I'd rather go with the original version over the remasters typically, just to get the original intended experience. But in the case of DVD versus Blu-ray, it's quite different because it's literally the exact same movie, and it's just one happens to be at a higher resolution and one doesn't. Anyway, they had each of these out for $1, so we'll just go ahead and run through it. They had The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, as well as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which, man, let me just say something. I remember going to see this movie in theaters, as well as the Out of the Shadows sequel that they put out a couple years later, and I absolutely love these movies, and it is so, I'm so sad that we never got a third one or a continuation of these, because these movies were just, they were so good, man. I love these movies so much. Not to mention how amazing the CGI in these genuinely were, with like the turtles and everything like that, and like Shredder. Oh my gosh, dude, Shredder. His like outfit or whatever in this one, like his suit was so sick with like the retracting blades and all that. But yeah, absolutely love this one. Now, I will say, it's getting to that point, it's been 10 years, I'm definitely starting to get a little nostalgic for this one, but if you want to talk about prime time nostalgia for the Turtles, you know, I have the utmost nostalgia for the original 90s one, obviously, just because that's, like, you know, my childhood right there with those movies, especially that first one, man. Just, oh man, it's already taking me back just thinking about the movie, just thinking about those suits. Oh, man, I think I might have to rewatch that movie at some point. That one's classic. Tonight, I will dine on turtle soup. And finally, The Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Now, growing up, I used to love the Chronicles of the Narnia movies. Started out with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then Prince Caspian. I would say that I watched The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe the most, but Prince Caspian was definitely a close second, just because as a kid, you know, I always loved those crazy action scenes, because there was like some pretty hardcore action in the Prince Caspian movie, if I'm gonna be honest. That awkward moment when your phone runs out of storage as you're recording, I guess that's my sign to shut up and wrap things up. But anyway, yeah, I do remember watching the first one a ton back in the day, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then Prince Caspian when that came out, and then Voyage of the Dawn Treader, that one came out a bit later when I was a bit older. Still enjoyed the movie. Like, regardless of how old you are, you can obviously enjoy these movies. I feel like that goes for any form of media. You know, I'm like in my 20s and I'm still sitting here watching like SpongeBob and like, you know, like Wow Wow Wubbzy and other stuff that I used to watch when I was younger. Like, you're never too old to enjoy any piece of media. But it's just one of those things that even after we purchased the movie, I guess I just didn't get to watch it as many times as I would have liked to. It also doesn't help that it is also about the time when my parents got divorced, so life just kind of got complicated around that point, so I didn't get to sit there and watch it as much as the other ones. But yeah, all the movies were great. And I have all of them on DVD, but I didn't have them on Blu-ray yet. So since they had this one, I was like, all right, I'll get this on Blu-ray. And then now I gotta get Prince Caspian and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe on Blu-ray yet. And then after that, I don't think there was any other Chronicles of Narnia movies. I think there was only 3. And if there was another one, then I unfortunately missed it. And I'll have to go back and watch it at some point. But yeah, I'll have to get the other 2 ones yet. And I'll also have to get Out of the Shadows on Blu-ray just because I love those movies so much. But anyways, yeah, I've done a lot of rambling. I know this video is pretty long, but that's just what I like to do. I just like to sit down and talk for a while. So I hope you guys were, you know, enjoyed indulging me on my long-winded conversations about what realistically could have been covered by most YouTubers in about 5 minutes, but, you know, I like to be in-depth and just kind of chill out and talk to you guys. My phone camera literally ran out of storage again, so this is now the 3rd video that I had to take, because I have to keep, like, deleting apps and clear caches just to get through this. But anyway, as always, smash shout out, thank you to all the Patreons and channel members, thank you to all the low ball tier, and every shout out, thank you to all the big ball tier, MLS can be dead, many days, shut that down, JT Ron, eventually, let's just go, thank you guys so much, guys, the little legends, I love you. Thank you guys for watching, have an amazing day, stay beautiful, I love you all, peace.